Sometimes I sit back and wonder why the song I'm listening to sounds so damn good. Then I start paying attention and my mind is always blown away by the subtle pieces that make up the entire track. This is all about finding the perfect groove. Stay tuned. So today we are going to listen, analyze, and experiment. And hopefully this allows you or empowers you to take your groove to a higher level. Let's go listen to a drum groove from a very famous song. Did you catch what song that was? Just by the groove? Maybe? I don't know. Well, it's Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran. This is one of those songs that when I had to learn it for a gig, I was amazed by the subtleness and the accent pattern of the hi-hat. It's really quite simple, but it's not like anything you might hear in your sort of traditional pop song. I have found that popular music actually has great complexity coming from its over-the-top simplicity. Let's now look at this groove and maybe answer a few questions, like why did the producer or the musician decide on this groove? Why did it feel so perfect?
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. And I'm thinking about how.
Let's face it, if you hear the same groove over and over in every song, it's going to eventually become a little bit stale, a little bit old. So in groove, here's how I like to think about groove. You have eggs. Eggs represent simple groove. Standard repertoire groove that we all learn when we're learning the drums. Got the eggs? But then if you add salt and pepper to those eggs, it makes the taste and the flavor pop. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to add the salt and the pepper. So if I were the studio drummer on this session with Ed Sheeran, this is probably where I would start the groove when I first heard the song.
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. And I'm thinking about how.
Then the producer or the musician might come in and give me some notes. They might say, it's good, but we want it to be a little bit more spicy. Add a little vibe to it. So I'm there thinking, oh, let me try this. So I go back and I try this.
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. And I'm thinking about how.
Okay, so they liked that, but they said the accent pattern isn't quite right. So they actually feed me the accent pattern that they're hearing in the booth. So I go back and I try that, and that's what we land on. Okay, so now let's analyze the groove, the actual groove that ended up on this multi-platinum selling song.
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my.
Okay, so So this is the fun part of producing music. We are discovering the sound that we think fits the song to the best of our ability. We're trying out new ideas, we're making decisions, and we're narrowing down our final path to the perfect groove. And certainly, you definitely want to have other people in the room with you so that they can offer feedback, opinions. Always remember, sometimes the groove is your idea, your creation. But many times it is not. And you have to serve the song in the way that the producer or the musician wants you to. Let's go back to my first idea. I'm playing the hi-hat very even, a bit heavy, but there's nothing more to the groove other than just it's straight. So in the second, I play the hi-hat lighter, a bit more busy, but there's no steady groove to it. In popular music, it is required that you do not overplay. You have to keep the groove consistent. And I definitely was not doing that on the second take. In the final take, after the producers sing me the pattern that they are hearing, I just go back in the booth and I lay it down really evenly. There are no drum fills, no crash, ride cymbals, very basic. And this brings me to a really important point. When I am recording my own music, there is always a take in there where I am trying my best drumnastics. Gymnastics all over the drum set, and it never works. I like to call it unmusical barf. So what I do is I hit delete. So in a future video, I'm actually going to talk a lot about the timbre of your instrument. The choices you make both in instrument selection and how you play them can have a negative and or a positive effect on the music you are recording. So why did they settle on this? This is a dance song. And I know that because it's requested at every wedding and every dance function I play at. The thing about having that accent on the upbeats, the end of the notes, one end. When you do that, it creates a lifting feeling, almost like you're being pushed up and then back down with the heaviness of the bass drum or the bass guitar, and then that hi-hat brings you back up. So it creates this motion and people want to move to it. Reggae music is a style that utilizes this all the time. They call it the skank feel when you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it makes you want to move. And that's the cool thing about reggae music. Certainly it's not the only dance music, but it's one of them that utilizes this disco up, up, up. It makes people bop. And that's why they did it, I think. You have a ballad song that's really slow. It's a beautiful song. It's very heartfelt. It's emotional. But it has this layer to it that adds a little bit of lightness to it. And that's where accents become your best friend. What's also interesting about this groove is where the second hi-hat accent is placed. It's placed after that bass drum. Now, if I were a drummer in the studio, the first thing I would do is I would play that accent with the bass drum. The reason why I would start doing that is because our right hand and our right foot, are really connected. And so it's hard sometimes for drummers to actually separate the two. But any intermediate to advanced drummer will be able to separate the limbs where you're accenting things. So I think it's really cool how they separate that bass drum from the hi-hat. Boom, ka, boom, ka, bass hi-hat, instead of going ka, ka, bam. So I think of this as complexity within its simplicity. One more example. If I were to play this song in a live setting, I would definitely play it up a little bit more. Most music directors want you to balance between playing the original groove and then something that's a little bit more lively. But be careful not to overplay, because if you do, you may not be asked back for another show. So here's what I might do if I were to play Thinking Out Loud at a gig.
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. And I'm thinking about how.
Okay, so now that we have found a song that we can mess around with, let's experiment and see how we can incorporate this into our own practice. So here's the thing. In your practice, you have to spend a considerable amount of time practicing your limb independence. For this particular experiment, you are going to have to be able to move the accent around to different parts or different places within your groove. For this, I highly recommend that you practice the accents in the Ted Reed book. So here's what I'd like to try. I have a song that I just put together real quick that we can record some different grooves on top of, and then we're going to see which one we like the most. So first, this song is in 7/4 time, and on my first take, I keep it very steady. Second take, same concept as the first, but I'm adding more accents with the hi-hat, playing more rhythmically, and I'm also coloring it with other cymbals. In the third take, I think I'm playing more of a solo than I am a groove. I would probably not end up using this take on the album. However, I may take some of the ideas from there and interject them into the final groove. Anyway, now it's up to the producer mind to sit there, listen, and decide which take they think fits the song better. I like take number 2, but I do like all of them for different reasons. So now my job is to go back and to find the balance between all 3. What do you guys think? You can comment below with your idea of what you think might work better. Maybe you have some ideas I didn't go over. The more you do this, the faster you can make decisions when you are called to do so. You might be in a studio session where you don't have the time to sit there and tinker with all these different ideas. But if you've put in the work beforehand and you kind of know what works, then you can go for it in a session. And again, they may like it, they may not, but you are able to do it and you are offering the uniqueness that you are to this music. And when you hear people talking about having great musicianship, this is a piece of that. This is a part of that. So you want to educate yourself and you want to put in the work so that you become the greatest musician that you can be. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe, please like it, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have something to add to this conversation, or if you have any questions, please comment below. I appreciate it. Thanks. See you soon.